Yeah, this is a really interesting kind of product that could have a lot of impact. And I guess the industry of how humans deal with death, because there is a lot of concerns I know, and around practical things like we're running out of space in a lot of places. Land is expensive, and these means of organic kind of uh, I guess alternatives to the traditional. Here's the, what do you call it, tombstone, and it's meant to last like at the pyramid's meant to last like 1,000 years and all this stuff. Instead of that, like with 7 billion people on the planet, should we start considering some other options? And yeah, I think this is definitely could play a part in that story. So it's interesting for those reasons. At the end of the day, I think it comes down to you think kind of like people are weird in that, like, you can't take anything with you when you die, and you're not going to feel anything as far as we know when we die. And but still we'd like to kind of imagine that what our bodies will go through once we pass will be pleasant. Like, for some reason I feel like being burned and my ashes being thrown from the top of Mount Everest feels more peaceful than getting hacked up and fed to a bunch of pigs or something, right? I don't know. I'm human, and like, it probably makes might not make any difference, like in a very physical, material sense, but like it does on some level, I think, and especially different cultures have different kind of ideas around this. And this mushroom narrative is like, which they haven't spoken much about, has a lot of potential there, because mushroom or mycelium like is actually or fungi, like the animal like kingdom of fungi is actually the closest related kingdom to mammals, humans, animalia, right? And they're common. They share a lot of similarities with us in that they take in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. Unlike plants, right? And that means that essentially they have, like, mycelium mushrooms have basically lungs and stomachs and things like that. But unlike humans, where it's all contained in like the sac, this sac that we call skin, right? And we think of individuals. Mushrooms, as all of these things are on the outside, right? And the scale and the role that that mycelium plays in environment and the maintenance of forests and nature is insane, because it's like in a 1 cubic inch, like 3 centimeter cube of soil, that can be up to 8 miles of cells, right, in that tiny cube. And so these organisms are sometimes can be seen as the largest organisms in the world, because they span entire forests, and they play this role of decomposing like dead matter, right, and being able to spread it throughout their networks to all of these different plants that have different like relationship with the mushrooms, right? And in recent years, like, a lot of people have likened this network of mycelial kind of cells over like vast kind of terrains, like not like information transportation network like the internet or a neural network, you know. And when they start doing studies around this, it's very much acts like that, with the information being chemicals and nutrients and things like that. So, which leads to kind of the spiritual realm. There's like a line there where it goes into a spiritual realm where there's you know, certainly a group of people out there, and narratives out there that start to see mycelial networks as just as much conscious, living, breathing things as humans, right? And so I feel like there's like a deeper spiritual narrative that could connect to another generation of humans that may come, that makes this kind of product, I guess, like really, I wouldn't say like appealing, but just has a role to play in that area. And it's just like a very interesting kind of, like, I've never seen any product like this. So I think it is it's not revolutionary in the sense of like aesthetic or material, anything else, but only just the cultural element. Because, you know, like whether we decompose in 20 or 200 years, like it makes no difference to the individual in the coffin. And while I don't like the image of me sitting and rotting with mushrooms growing out of my skin, I do like the idea that I will be connected to a greater whole through this network, through this another universe of you know, like connected beings, right? That kind of potentially like has, you know, afterlife consequences, you know. I'll leave that up to the imagination, but yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, my thoughts on this, you know, why does this product exist now? So I just want to talk to a very different dimension of this, not so much the narrative around why you might choose this. Well, in some ways I might talk about that area, but one thing to think about is, why does this exist now? And I mean, we've been able to do this probably, you know, for at least 50 years, probably even longer, you know. And it's really about where the current sentiments are around sustainability and where the marketplace is at the moment, and who this might actually appeal to as a product. You know, there is definitely a widespread acknowledgement around the world, or sentiment around the world, around climate change, around you know, various environmental factors. So you can see that a product like this is kind of ripe for that market, or to position itself alongside. I mean, I feel like I know people that would go for something like this. I mean, I might even go for something like this, you know. And, you know, for me, my personal position is I'm not really all that worried about what happens to me after death. You know, it's just, you know, whatever, because you have, in some sense, no control over that side of things. I mean, sure, you can prescribe what you want to be laid down, and you might say, hey, look, if at least some good can come out of, you know, the physical me, then it might as well be in a box of fungus that's feeding nutrients or growing something around it. You know, like, it's the same reason people put in, you know, decide to donate their organs, right? You know, after an incident or such. But anyway, like at a bigger level, I think this is a very smart product, in the sense that it's positioned itself, it's timed itself well with where the market is at the moment. And for that reason, I see it being quite successful, and I think it has a lot of potential. I mean, look, as the technology develops, as we start to get better at understanding the material, I mean, sure, the aesthetic quality of it will eventually you know, can improve over time. But, you know, you also got to ask yourself, like, does that really even matter? You know? And yeah, you know, it challenges a lot of things. And I know that this will be for a very specific niche in the market as well, you know? It won't be for everyone. But I think globally, it might be enough to make it a success. So that's my thoughts.
I mean, it's like a very responsible solution and an approach, right?
It's both responsible and a clever business case, I feel.
I don't think anyone would make this like with the business case being like the main motivating factor, but
no, like it's a combination, right? It's, you know, it's about having that the idea and the emotion behind it, right? The reason why you're actually developing this object, and then having the intellect and, you know, the rigor of operating this as a product, you know, as a startup. This is a startup, right? That they're pitching. You know, you need to have both sides of the coin. You know, you can't just purely be all passion and I'm not going to look at the numbers. I'm not looking at who this is for, or, you know, do any of the market studies, because that's a short road to falling off a cliff. You know, so I mean, say for example, a product like this will not work in India. I promise you that, because there are specific rituals associated with death in India, right? So you've got to know your people, you've got to know your market, you know, and most, you know, a majority of Indians are of Hindu faith, and they prefer to be cremated, you know, and they have a different, you know, there are different rituals and different sentiments around it. So yeah, it can't all be just, I am driven by this one goal. There has to be that fit from that other side as well.